Thank you all for joining us today. Before we start with the event, I would like to remind everyone that free speech and academic freedom are foundational values of the University of California, and for that I will be reading a civility statement. UC Berkeley is committed to the belief that speech we may not like or agree with should be confronted with more speech, not censorship. Some of you may disagree with today's topic or have other differences with our invited guest speaker. However, please respect the spirit of this forum and the rest of the audience by allowing our guests to speak. Please do not stand, shout, or engage in any other behavior that disrupts the event or prevents the speaker from being heard. Anyone who disrupts this event may be asked to leave the campus, and if police action is necessary, this could lead to criminal citation or even arrest. Students or campus affiliates might also face administrative consequences for their behavior. There will be time for questions after Mr. Abdullah finishes speaking. He will first face a 30-minute question and answer session moderated by Mr. Abdullah and me, followed by a 30-minute question and answer session for the audience. We ask that you remain in your seats, and the event is being moderated and video recorded and will be available at the IIS website. I would now like to invite Akash Kalodia to introduce our speaker for this event.
Thanks, Harshal. Charismatic, articulate, and an ardent fan of technology, Mr. Omar Abdullah is an Indian politician and this year of one of the most prominent political families of Jammu and Kashmir, the Abdullah family. He served as the youngest Chief Minister of the state of Jammu and Kashmir from 2009 to 2014. He's currently the leader of opposition in the J&K Legislative Assembly. He became a member of parliament at the young age of 28, a union minister by the age of 29, and a chief minister by 39, and truly inspires young politicians in India. His broad set of experiences put him in a unique position to talk about possible solutions to the Kashmir issue, the India and Pakistan relationship, and the overall Indian political scenario. We're really excited to have Mr. Abdullah among us, and I would now like to invite him to the podium to address the audience. Thank you.
Well, hi, good evening everybody. Let me begin by saying what an honor and a privilege it is for me to be here. This is the first time I had the opportunity to visit the West Coast of the United States, and for that opportunity to have come from UC Berkeley is doubly rewarding. I've been asked to speak on the path forward in Kashmir, and I know that the bulk of this evening's session is actually going to be a Q&A session, so I'll try and keep my opening remarks as short as possible. But before we talk about the path forward in Kashmir, I think it's important to understand how we reached where we have done in Kashmir today. And I'm not going to go too far back. I will start from 1947. The birth of India and Pakistan, and the true point at which the problem in Jammu and Kashmir began. Now, Jammu and Kashmir has at various points in time been called various things. Traditionally, we like to know it as heaven on earth, but subsequent to that, it has been called the most dangerous place in the world, one of the last nuclear flashpoints in the world, one of the most highly militarized zones in the world, etc., etc. And all of these things at various points in time have been true. The problem in Jammu and Kashmir emerged out of the independence movement and out of the birth of Pakistan. At that point in time, if you will remember, India was made up of a number of princely states. The princely states were then asked to opt between choosing to go with India or choosing to go with Pakistan. There were three states in what is now Indian territory which opted to go with Pakistan. They were Junagadh, Hyderabad and Jammu and Kashmir for two different reasons. Junagadh and Hyderabad were Hindu majority population with Muslim leaders, and the Muslim leadership of its own took the decision that they would go with Pakistan. Jammu and Kashmir was the reverse. It was a Muslim majority state with a Hindu ruler. At that point in time, Junagadh and Hyderabad were dealt with as they were, became a part of the Indian Union, no problem subsequently. Jammu and Kashmir, the Maharaja, as I understand it, was more interested in an independent Jammu and Kashmir. He asked for time to decide and did not opt either for India or for Pakistan. So on the night of the 14th, 15th of August 1947, when India attained independence and Pakistan was born, actually a third independent domain came into existence, and that was Jammu and Kashmir. It remained independent for a few months, but it was a short-lived period. A tribal invasion from across the border, in a sense, forced the Maharaja's hand. He wanted help from India to repel that invasion. India at that time rightly said that, look, you are an independent entity. Our forces have no right to come to your rescue. The only way the Indian army can rescue the state of Jammu and Kashmir is if Jammu and Kashmir accedes to the Union of India, which is what happened. An instrument of accession was signed. Jammu and Kashmir became a part of the Union. The Indian army moved in, pushed back the rebels to a certain point, and that for the moment was that. Jammu and Kashmir was subsequently taken up as an issue in the United Nations, to the Security Council. The United Nations Security Council resolution that is often talked about to this day, Resolution 47 of 1948 of the United Nations Security Council, came into existence, which basically said that the people of Jammu and Kashmir will be given a right to choose which dominion they would like to be a part of, India or Pakistan. But it gets a little more complicated than that, because this Security Council resolution laid down a certain series of steps which had to be followed for that plebiscite to be granted to the people of Jammu and Kashmir. First and foremost in that was that Pakistan would withdraw its forces from the territorial boundaries of Jammu and Kashmir, withdraw in total, not downsize, downscale or reduce, withdraw. Subsequent, and it's not, the language isn't vague, it's not as if the two steps have to take place simultaneously. It's clear that there is a step 1, step 2, step 3. So step 1 is a withdrawal by Pakistan, step 2 is a downsizing by India of its troop levels to a level that is deemed appropriate to manage the plebiscite. And step 3 would then be the constitution of a plebiscite authority to carry out the plebiscite in Jammu and Kashmir. Now, as we all know, step 1 never happened. And because step 1 never happened, clearly Government of India didn't downsize its troop presence, as a result of which the plebiscite that was to allow the people of Jammu and Kashmir to decide between India and Pakistan never happened, and that's one of the reasons why we are where we are today. Now,
please wait till my question.
I'm sure this will come up in the course of the questions, but a few years ago, one of the now former United Nations Secretary Generals, in fact visiting Delhi, said that much water has flown under the bridge now, and perhaps these United Nations Security Council resolutions are no longer relevant to Jammu and Kashmir and no longer applicable. Now, that's a point on which I'm sure a lot of us will have to agree to disagree, but that is the way it is right now. So subsequent to Jammu and Kashmir becoming a part of India, it became a divided state because the occupation of Pakistani forces was not pushed back to the point at which Jammu and Kashmir had existed in August of 1947. For Pakistan, Jammu and Kashmir has been the unfinished agenda of partition. They, for reasons that I can understand, couldn't understand why a Muslim majority state would opt to stay with India as opposed to being a part of Pakistan. Numerous wars have been fought. The dates are all there in front of you. We have a number of international agreements between India and Pakistan, dialogues and discussions, whether in Tashkent and Simla, in various other places, aimed at resolving the international dimension to the problem in Jammu and Kashmir, because there are clearly two dimensions. It's not simply a matter between New Delhi and Jammu and Kashmir, nor is it a matter between Islamabad and Jammu and Kashmir. A part of the state continues to remain with Pakistan. I belong to the part of the state that is with India, that acceded to India. And so when we come to the way forward, both these dimensions of the problem will have to be tackled. You will have to look at the situation between India and Pakistan, particularly with regard to Jammu and Kashmir, but also you'll have to look at the internal dimension to the problem in Jammu and Kashmir. When Jammu and Kashmir acceded to the Union of India, unlike other states, it negotiated the terms for its accession. Yes. And therefore, when I make the point that other states acceded and then merged with the Union of India, Jammu and Kashmir didn't. Jammu and Kashmir acceded to the Union of India, but didn't merge in toto into the Union. And which is why Jammu and Kashmir enjoys a position that is distinct from other states within the Indian Union. We are the only state with our own flag. We are the only state with our own constitution, and we are the only state for whom laws that are passed by the parliament in New Delhi do not automatically apply to the state of Jammu and Kashmir unless the state government ratifies those laws for extension to Jammu and Kashmir. Now, when the state acceded and those terms were being finalized, the Union of India was responsible only for four things: currency, communication, defense, and foreign affairs. That was it. Everything else was the domain of the state, which meant that the Supreme Court of India, the Controller and Auditor General of India, the Election Commission of India, the Indian Administrative Services, the Indian Police Services, etc., none of them had jurisdiction over the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Now, from that day to this day, that autonomous position of Jammu and Kashmir has been significantly whittled down, wherein it is really only a pale shadow of what it used to look like. And that is one of the reasons why we are facing the problem that we are in Jammu and Kashmir. Now, clearly, the biggest problem we have in Jammu and Kashmir is the security situation. The fact that almost 30 years later, we are still dealing with an uprising, we're still dealing with militancy, we're still dealing with terrorism. It started as a purely indigenous uprising, a purely indigenous struggle for a political settlement to the problem of Jammu and Kashmir. It has since then changed and converted into a mixed struggle. It is no longer an indigenous Kashmiri uprising. Yes, the bulk of the people fighting in Kashmir continue to be from Kashmir, but at last count, if my memory serves me correctly, we've had about 16 or 18 different nationalities of people caught or killed in Jammu and Kashmir. So of course you had Kashmiris, you had people from Pakistan, Afghanistan, Bosnia, Chechnya, Sudan, the United Kingdom, and a few other countries that I wouldn't list out here. Also, what started as a purely indigenous struggle for the political rights of the Kashmiris has now also been, has elements of a religious struggle now introduced into it. Which is why, for the first time now, while you've had, as I mentioned, all these nationalities of fighters fighting in Jammu and Kashmir, even though India has the second largest Muslim population in the world after Indonesia, you didn't find Muslims from the rest of India coming to Jammu and Kashmir and participating in the militancy there. It is only a recent phenomenon that you've had in just the last few weeks. Two Indian Muslims, one from Telangana who died in an encounter, and one reportedly from Assam who's active in the outskirts of Srinagar, that have come to Jammu and Kashmir, that have become part of the militant uprising, not because of the political struggle that is going on there, but because of an identification of themselves as part of the Muslim struggle that needs to be waged. And that is a very significant change that has taken place, and one that I believe has grave implications for the state as a whole. Now, what gave rise to this militancy? Different people have different sort of causes or beliefs on what the reasons are. I think most people are agreed that it was the election in 1987 that gave rise to militancy, the accord between the National Conference of the Congress, between my father and Rajiv Gandhi, Rahul's father, that shrunk the space for political opposition in Jammu and Kashmir. I, of course, would take the argument further and suggest that there have been various acts of omission and commission in the past, particularly in the way in which New Delhi handled the elected state government and the elected representatives of Jammu and Kashmir, that fed into this anger, that finally boiled over in 1987 and gave rise to militancy. But I mean, we can, I'm sure that this again will come up in the Q&A session. But that militancy has now been, as I said, going on for almost 30 years. And 30 years ago, if you had asked me that in 2018, do you believe you will still be talking about a violent Jammu and Kashmir where violence is still the rule rather than the exception, I wouldn't have believed it possible. Going by our experience in Punjab and elsewhere, I honestly would not have believed that 30 years later we'd still be talking about a violent Jammu and Kashmir, but lo and behold, we are. Now, in the course of this violence, so much has happened, and I think that brings me to the path that we have to take to try and address this problem. So, first and foremost, as I said, there are two dimensions to this problem, the internal and the external dimension. The external dimension involves Pakistan. We cannot ignore the fact that a significant part of the state of Jammu and Kashmir is with Pakistan. And nothing we have done since 1947 has changed that on the ground. Therefore, has the time come to ask ourselves that are we being overly ambitious, overly emotional when we talk about bringing that part of Jammu and Kashmir back into India? We haven't done it since 1947. Are we going to be able to do it now? And even with the gravest of provocation that we had in Kargil, when we fought a war in 1999, even there, the line of control, the sanctity of the line of control was respected by the alien forces, in spite of the fact that we took losses on account of that. There were express instructions by the government of India that Indian planes and helicopters will not cross the line of control, that Indian troops will not cross the line of control. So imagine with the provocation of Kargil, even at that time, if we decided to respect the sanctity of the line of control, haven't we somewhere or the other decided that yes, perhaps this is the way it is and we move forward from here? So one of the ways that we have to move forward is that we need to sit down with Pakistan and once and for all address this issue. Now, we can't do it with international mediation. I think mediation is a word that particularly people in India have a lot of suspicion about. But facilitation is not something we have a problem with. So perhaps friends in the right places can facilitate this process between India and Pakistan, try and address some of the suspicions that we have. I believe that we came incredibly close during the time of General Pervez Musharraf, first with Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee and then with Dr. Manmohan Singh. But I think time ran out for us. Time ran out for us because it took us so long to finally put aside our suspicion of General Musharraf as the architect of the Kargil war, that by the time we realized he was somebody we could do business with, he wasn't nearly as powerful as we needed him to be. But even then, in terms of how far Pakistan moved away from its stated position, how different General Musharraf's four-point agenda was to previous formulations from Pakistan, has suggested that yes, there is scope for movement there. So that's the external part of the problem. The internal part of the problem is equally tricky. We need to look at restoring the autonomous position of Jammu and Kashmir to the fullest extent possible. Now, my party is one of those that has said that we need to take the clock back to the pre-53 position, which is the position that Jammu and Kashmir enjoyed at the time between accession and the arrest and dismissal of my grandfather's government. Now I hear, and I know this is a public forum, but I've said this in the past as well, I understand that is sort of our beginning of the negotiation point. But I'm reasonable enough to understand that there have been changes that have been made that have been to the advantage of Jammu and Kashmir. So why would I roll back the applicability of the Supreme Court? Who would trust my elections if I conducted them for myself and then wonder? So the Election Commission of India, the Controller and Auditor General of India, the Supreme Court of India, various other things, perhaps those are something in the course of the give and take that will follow, are things that we will take off the table in the hope that New Delhi will respond in kind, and at the end of the day we'll arrive at a workable model that to some extent restores Jammu and Kashmir's autonomous position, even if it doesn't take it all the way back to where we would like it to be. Clearly, Jammu and Kashmir has far too many troops and soldiers than we want. Now, again, please understand that Jammu and Kashmir has been the theatre of battle for almost every war that India has fought. Whether we fought with China, parts of Jammu and Kashmir have been involved. When all the wars that we have fought with Pakistan have been largely focused in Jammu and Kashmir. So regardless of whether there is militancy in Jammu and Kashmir or not, there will, so long as China and Pakistan are militarized, Jammu and Kashmir will have a military presence. But the hope is that that military presence will be as it was before 1989, which is on the borders, on the line of control, on the line of actual control, not settled into civilian areas, because that is where the problems arise. And again, I'm sure this is something that will come up in the course of the question-answer session, but there have been reports and incidents of grave human rights violations that haven't been adequately addressed, which again brings me to my next point. So while we're talking about reducing the footprint of security forces in the hinterland of Jammu and Kashmir, taking a fresh look at laws like the Armed Forces Special Powers Act and the impunity that gives to security forces, we also need to look at a truth and reconciliation model for the state of Jammu and Kashmir. And this can't just be confined to the Indian part of Jammu and Kashmir. It has to be made applicable to the side of Jammu and Kashmir and the Pakistani side as well. Because if people have died in the conflict of on our side, I dare say people have died in the conflict on the other side as well. If for the last 28 odd years you've had training camps that have been training militants in the Pakistani side of Jammu and Kashmir or in Pakistan proper, are you telling me that in these 28 years not a single death has taken place, even by natural causes, of those Kashmiris that have come there for training? And if they have, don't we have a right to answers as to what happened? So whether it is the incidents of human rights violations on the Indian side, whether it is the deaths in the training camps and elsewhere on the Pakistani side, whether it is the exodus of the Kashmiri Pandits, what was behind that, whether it was the exodus along with the Kashmiri Pandits, who had some Kashmiri Sikhs and even Kashmiri Muslims that went, clearly there is a need to give some reconciliation to those people as well. So that has to be part of the way forward. We need to create economic opportunities for the state of Jammu and Kashmir. We need to create the promise of a better future for youngsters who are today being drawn to pick up the gun. It's a very unusual situation that we have in Jammu and Kashmir today, where there are more youngsters willing to pick up the gun than there are actually guns available there. And that sentiment needs to be addressed. It needs to be addressed both, as I said, politically, but it also needs to be addressed in terms of giving them opportunities in education, giving them opportunities in employment, and hopefully creating avenues and opportunities for them beyond the boundaries of the state of Jammu and Kashmir. And what we on the Indian side need to do is to help rebuild the people's trust in institutions. That trust is sorely lacking. They don't have as much faith in the electoral system as I would like them to have. They don't have as much faith in the institutions of a functioning democracy as I would like them to have, be it in the police and its ability to carry out its work, in the courts and the court's ability to provide justice, or in the government of India's ability to just listen and be an honest broker in all this. So the way forward, the path forward, as I said, has to start from the dialogue process, both internally and externally. It has to take in all shades of opinion. It's no good. Government of India often hides behind this sort of fog screen that they create, where they turn around and say, well, first you Kashmiris all agree on something, and then we'll talk to you. Look, Kashmiris are not going to uniformly agree on any one thing. No matter what solution you work out, whether it's part of something similar to General Pervez Musharraf's 4-point program, whether it's drastically different from that, the fact is that you're not going to get 100% of the population to agree on anything. And therefore the aim has to be to bring in the majority of the population into whatever you agree. And that will only be possible if we involve in the dialogue process those people who, at the moment, we not only do we disagree with, but have kept away from that dialogue process. So if we can agree to start talking to each other, start listening to each other rather than talking at each other, we can start addressing some of these problems. We can actually genuinely go out and put into practice the words that we hear. I mean, if only Prime Minister Narendra Modi follows what he said on the 15th of August from the ramparts of the Red Fort the previous year, where he said that it's not bullets and abuses that will solve the Kashmir problem. It's embracing Kashmiris that will solve the problem. That's all you need to do. If you can once and for all understand that you cannot drive a solution to this problem out of the barrel of a gun. You can't shoot your way through a solution. You can't buy your way through a solution. You can only work your way to a solution if you embrace as many people as possible and bring them into this umbrella of the dialogue process. If you can do that, I believe we have the possibility of a path forward that will put this problem away for us once and for all. But if not, if all we're going to do is stopgap, piecemeal sort of stuff, a lot of good sounding words but very little implementation, then I dare say, and God forbid, that 20 or 30 years down the road from here, I'll probably no longer be around, but somebody will from Jammu and Kashmir. You'll probably be inviting them back here, and they'll still be talking about a violent, troubled, blood-soaked Jammu and Kashmir, and I think that will be a huge tragedy. So I don't believe that all opportunity has been lost, but we've squandered a lot of good chances, and I hope we don't do that going ahead. So that is as much as I'm going to say in the opening remarks, and I'm sure the rest will touch in the